All right, hey everybody, Dr. Shawn Talbott here. Hey, we're going to start in just about 1 minute, just as soon as the hour turns the top of the hour. So I'm going to get my windows open. I'm going to get my chat window open, like we do every night on this open webinar. If you have questions, put them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them as we go through the seminar tonight. We're going to talk about, well, let me see, let me share so you can see exactly what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the super seven of mental fitness, the seven sort of major categories that underlie this concept of mental fitness. And you can see them, on the screen right now. I'll talk about them a little bit as soon as we start for real. And I'm going to go and look at a couple of little doodads here on my technology and make sure everything's running the right way. That looks good. That looks good. And we are ready to roll. And there, just turned the top of the hour. Okay, perfect timing. So, we're going to be talking about mental fitness tonight, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit, little more nuanced way than we typically do, right? So typically when we talk about mental fitness, we talk about feeling better, right? So, under that umbrella of mental fitness are lots of different mood states. And I've done other webinars where we talk about how we measure them and how we track them and things like that. So I'm not going to get into that part of it too much. But suffice to say, what you see on the screen now, these Super Seven, we're going to talk about how all of these different mood states, or they're not all mood states, but they all interact with each other to lead to this state that we call mental fitness, right? Mood is one of them, motivation, metabolism, energy, immunity, and stress resilience. And they all work together. And this is probably the big takeaway from what we're talking about tonight is the fact that if one of them is out of balance, it very likely causes imbalances in the others. So, for example, if your mood is low, you generally will have low energy. You'll have poor stress resilience. You won't be able to handle stress the right way. But if the good part is that if you improve any of them, then the other ones improve. They rise together. So, this one in particular, stress resilience. If we can improve somebody's stress resilience and a particular flavor of stress resilience that I'll talk about as we get through our slides, then many things improve. Your metabolism changes. A lot of times when we see people become more stress resilient, not only will they feel better, but their biochemical numbers will get better. They'll have better cholesterol numbers. They'll have better blood sugar numbers. They'll have better inflammatory numbers because biochemistry and behavior go hand in hand with each other. And that's the kind of thing we're going to talk about tonight. How they work together, why they work together, and how, since we understand that science, how you can harness that science in some very practical ways to help improve all of these seven for yourself. Okay, so here's all my background. I am a psychonutritionist. I'm somebody who studies the link between psychology and nutrition, or said more simply, food and mood. Um, all the background, all the credentials there. I've been doing this for a long, long time. In fact, I need to grab one of these books that's up here. I'll grab this one for a little show and tell later on. My PhD is in nutritional biochemistry, so a lot of what I'll talk about tonight is biochemistry. We're going to talk a lot about neurotransmitters. We're going to talk about serotonin and happiness. We're going to talk about dopamine and motivation. We're going to talk about GABA and relaxation. We're going to talk about short chain fatty acids and metabolism. And because if we can understand that biochemical basis of how we feel, then we can change that biochemical basis, right? We can use food, or we can use supplements, or we can use specific nutrients, or we can use mindfulness, we can use breath work, we can use exposure to nature, we can move our bodies, we can do all these different things to change the biochemistry, to change how we feel and how we perform. Okay, so that's why like the biochemistry that I talk about is so important to this whole idea of what we mean by mental fitness. So I want to let you know about, so that's sort of my background. So my perspective that I'm coming at you from very much from this biochemical perspective. The company that I run, called Three Waves, is the Holistic Mental Fitness Company. We were this year named a Startup Star, which is basically Startup of the Year, because we're really one of the only companies out there that is bringing all of this mental fitness thinking under one umbrella. So we have a mental fitness retreat center. We actually just set the dates for our next retreat in September, and I'll be announcing that next week. The exact dates, what's included, the cost. It's going to be awesome, you guys. So look in your emails for that. So we have the world's first mental fitness retreat. We have a certified mental wellness coach program where we've trained about 1,000 people to be certified mental wellness coaches. We have a very vibrant mental fitness community that people can join, whether you're a mental fitness coach or not, so that you can sort of interact with other people who are on the same journey of either improving their own mental fitness or trying to help other people as a coach improve their mental fitness. And we've got a line of science-based nutraceuticals. So you can see them here. We also have an affiliate program. Our flagship product, Zenith, is really second to none when it comes out there in terms of the science, the branded ingredients, the overall benefits that people get. We've got reorder rates like you wouldn't believe because people buy it once. They go, oh, that sounds pretty good. I'd like to have a good mood. I'd like to have better resilience. I'd like to have better energy and mental focus and metabolism boost and all that kind of stuff. It's a gut health product, but it does gut health as a way to improve all those mental fitness parameters. And people try it and they like it. So they order it again and again and again and again. And then they find that it ends up replacing a whole cabinet full of other supplements that they were taking before. So, it's very convenient, it's very science-based, it's very experiential. And you can check it out at threewaveswellness.com if you want to learn more information. So I will share this with you before we get into the meat of it. I have a lot of free stuff. If you go to my other website, which is my educational website, doctalbot.com, there's free articles in my blog section. There's links out to my YouTube channel where you'll see videos like this. There are links to special reports. There's links to free ebooks. So, we're going to talk a little bit about leveling up your performance tonight. If you're interested in leveling up, you might be interested in this book that talks about nootropics and adaptogens and psychobiotics. What are the science-based nutraceuticals that you can use to help you with your mental focus and your stress resilience and your mood and your, all that kind of stuff. You can get that at doctalbot.com/level up. And if you're interested in this whole world of peptides that is taking over the wellness space right now, and some of them sound too good to be true because some of them are too good to be true. Some are legit, but there's a lot of gray area out there. I wrote this book to help people sort of wade through what's legit, what's not legit, what to look for, what to look out for. doctalbot.com/peptide. So you can go grab either of those. They're free. And there's lots of other stuff you might be interested in there at Doc Talbot. Okay, so why does mental fitness matter? And why do I want to talk about it in the way that we're going to talk about it tonight? It's mostly because most people are out there not getting benefits or not getting the kind of benefits that they want, maybe getting limited benefits or getting, a little bit of an effect, but not the overall effect that they're seeking because everybody's playing whack-a-mole. And it's because most people are focusing on symptoms and most of the so-called, and I'll do this in air quotes, most of the so-called solution providers out there, are giving things that are very limited in their scope, right? You might have if you have a low mood, you might take something that will boost your mood, but it doesn't do anything for your energy. Or you might have low energy and you drink an energy drink, for example, but that doesn't do anything for your brain fog or your motivation, et cetera, right? So that idea of saying, oh, here's this symptom, here's this solution for that isolated symptom is what I mean by the concept of whack-a-mole. The big problem with that thinking is that these aren't separate problems. They are all connected problems. They're different signals from the same interconnected system. And so you'll see as we go through here, I talk a lot about the gut-brain axis, and I do this little thing that looks like breakdancing, right? When I'm trying to remind everybody that the signals that reach your brain are coming from other parts of your body. They're coming from your gut. They're coming from your microbiome, which is the bacteria in your gut. They're coming from your heart. They're coming from your immune system. They're coming from all kinds of other places. And they're not all going to the brain. The brain is also sending its own set of signals out to the rest of the body. So that is what we call a systems problem. And if we think of it as like a biochemist would or an engineer would, you would think, well, wait a minute. If that system could be imbalanced here with my mood, or here with my energy, or here with my ability to focus, or here with my motivation, you guys get the idea. Well, why would I think that just one solution can solve that problem? If it's a multifactorial problem, you need a multifactorial solution in order to get the kind of benefits that you're looking for, which is what I call mental fitness, which is feeling better in all those different 7 areas that I mentioned on that very, very first slide. So this mental fitness is a systems problem. And that system is what we call the gut immune system brain system. Said simply, right? We could go through all the different nodes, so to speak. And that's what my most recent book is about. Mental fitness, bestseller on Amazon for I don't know how many weeks, is all about this idea of the brain in your head is just one brain. It's so much not the only brain that we refer to it as the head brain to differentiate it from the heart brain, which sends a whole different set of signals, and to differentiate that from the microbiome and the gut brain, which those could be 2 separate brains if you wanted to really sort of like split hairs, but we'll put them as one. The microbiome is one set of signals. The gut tissue itself is another set of signals, but they're sort of like, I mean, they're not sort of like, they're actually wrapped in with each other, so it's it's there. So you can see here, mental fitness, we put right on the cover of the book. We put the head brain, the heart brain, the gut brain right on the front to make the point that they are separate targets, if you will. There's things we can do in the brain to help you feel better. There's things we can do in the heart to help you feel better. There's things we can do in the gut to help you feel better. And all the signals that go between those 3 brains are what we call the axis. So these are the communication channels. The immune system is one of those channels. The nervous system is one of those channels. And the circulatory system is one of those channels. The lymph system is one of those channels. The endocannabinoid system is one of those channels. And so they are how the signals travel from one brain to another brain, but they're also targets in and of themselves. If we can make that system, that communication system, if we can make it more efficient, then we can make the signals travel more efficiently. You can think of it as like, you can have 2 cell phones that are working perfectly fine, but if the communication network between them is full of static, your signal is not going to get through. Okay, so you have to make sure that the nodes, the brains, the phones are working properly, but you also have to make sure that the communication system in between is working properly. Everything flows through these systems, and so if you can get them all in balance and working efficiently, then you will feel better, right? And so I've been doing this for a long, long time, 30 or so years at this point. And it's gotten me to a point now where I like to think of it like this. What you see in the middle is something called adaptive capacity. People will hear me a lot of times talk about something called resilience. A lot of the people that I work with don't care about lowering stress. In fact, I will sometimes work with people who will say, I'm not interested in lowering stress. I'm actually interested in being able to take more on, handle more projects. I want to not remove stress from my life. I want to be able to handle the stress that's in my life, or maybe even take on more stress in my life. That's called stress resilience. The ability to handle stress is stress resilience. So where is that on here? Right here. Calm under pressure, recovery, and adaptability. But the next level of that is something called adaptive capacity. It's the ability to not just handle stress better, resilience. It's the ability to be able to bounce back from that stress and come back even stronger. So when we talk to athletes, that's what athletes really, really want. They don't want to just be able to, withstand their workouts, or their weights or their endurance runs or, whatever. They want to use that. They want to be able to put more and more stress on their bodies, be able to absorb that stress so they don't get hurt or injured, but they want to be able to bounce back from that stress so they come back bigger, faster, stronger. To use the Olympic saying. So adaptive capacity is your ability to adapt, recover, and thrive in everyday life. This is the ability to, really sort of like reach whatever your peak performance is. And that's going to be different for everybody, but everybody should want to be able to have the highest adaptive capacity for themselves. And the idea here is that if you can get your adaptive capacity to notch itself up little by little by little, it strengthens all of these super seven that you see on the outside. So if your adaptive capacity is better, your mood will be better. Your motivation will be better. Your metabolism will be better. Your energy will be better. Your focus will be better. Your immune system will be better. And you can see that there are arrows going back and forth, right? So they strengthen each other. They solidify each other, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. They're connected, they're interdependent, they're influencing each other. When one rises, they all rise. Unfortunately, when one falls, it can set off a chain reaction, a vicious cycle of a downward spiral. So we're going to talk about how to meet somebody somewhere on that downward spiral and get it to flip so that it's an upward spiral. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. Okay, so I wanted to put this on. This is very, very busy on purpose. It's one thing to say those things, right? To say here are the super seven that underlie mental fitness, mood and motivation, metabolism. It's another thing to go below the level of biochemistry and say, well, what is it that is driving my mood? What is it that's driving my motivation? That's what you see over here. Neurotransmitters, inflammation, stress hormones, metabolic pathways. These are the biochemical pillars, if you will, the underlying biology that are at the root of why we feel the way we feel, or why a particular body system works the way that it works. You can see on the right hand side, you can see the gut heart brain axis, and you can see how it's not just top down, it's not just bottom up, it's back and forth, ebb and flow, multi-directional signaling. And we're gonna talk about all of these as we go through. Okay, so all of them is taken the left-hand side on this slide and blown it up a little bit so it's easier to read. So when we talk about how people feel and how people perform, there is potentially a lot going on. Well, there is not potentially a lot going on. There is a lot going on. There is potentially a lot that's going on that could be out of balance. So here's your neurotransmitters. If your serotonin is out of balance, and I'm just going to say out of balance, that's a very non-specific way to talk about this. I've done a whole, if you're part of our mental fitness community, you'll know that we have a whole serotonin deep dive course that it's 3 or 4 modules. It's probably 4.5 hours long, of how to increase your serotonin, how to make your serotonin signaling more efficient. What are the things that block serotonin signaling? What are practical applications of serotonin? So when I talk about serotonin, the kind of neurotransmitter of happiness, people sometimes mistake that the solution is just to get more serotonin and you'll be fine. It doesn't always work that way. Okay, so just to kind of disclaim that, right? To go through the whole serotonin pathway would take me a lot more time than we have right now. But if you are interested in that kind of stuff, we have those kinds of modules in our mental fitness community. So anyway, neurotransmitters, serotonin for happiness, dopamine for motivation, GABA for relaxation. Inflammation can make us feel fatigued in and of itself. Inflammation can make us feel less happy, sort of like lead us towards depression and anxiety in and of itself. But what it also does is that these cytokines, inflammatory markers, can block some of the neurotransmitters. So this is an example of what I was just talking about. Your level of serotonin might be perfectly normal, but it's being blocked by an inflammatory cytokine. And so your sensation, your experience is that your mood is low instead of your mood being high and happy. You're sort of down in the dumps, you're blue, you're unmotivated, etc., because that inflammation is blocking the effect of what the neurotransmitter should have. So that's a consideration. these stress hormones like cortisol, but there's all kinds of other stress hormones through the HPA axis, which is your stress response system, that can have, make you feel stressed out, make you feel agitated, um, make you so you can't calm down. So cortisol, one of the sort of insidious effects of cortisol is that if it's too high, especially towards the later part of the day, like when you're sort of trying to wind down and relax and get ready for bed and stuff like that. If cortisol is too high, that is sending a sort of low grade fight or flight response into your system, and it I was going to say enables. That's not the right word. It interferes with your ability to calm down. So at that point in the evening, it's not really energizing you like it should be during the day when it's really high. When it's just a little bit high, it's getting in the way of your ability to wind down and relax and fall asleep. So so that's something that is if we can solve the cortisol issue, then you can sleep better. Then the next day you can be more energetic and motivated and focused and things like that. And then these metabolic pathways, we're learning more and more and more about these because I've been studying glucose as one of these very important metabolic pillars for 20 or 30 years. But now we're learning more about these ones called short chain fatty acids. We're learning a lot more about gut derived peptides. Everybody who's watching has probably heard of the GLP-1s. These are the appetite satiety peptides that are produced by the gut after we eat, and now you can inject yourself with them, Ozempic and Mounjaro and Zepbound and things like that. But these are not just appetite signals, right? They're not just satiety signals. They have signaling effects in terms of our drive for things. Are we looking for cupcakes? Are we, what is our blood sugar level doing? Are we burning fat? Are we burning carbohydrates? Are we losing muscle or maintaining muscle? These are all very, very important signals that have these, physiological signals, but they also have these psychological signals at the same time. So when we look at those key messengers, right? So think of all of those. Let me go back real quick. Think of all of these as signals. And if we can understand those signals, understand where they're starting, where they're originating from, where are they going to, we can determine. Do we need more of a signal? Do we need a stronger signal? Do we have a strong enough signal? Do we just need to hear it better? Like, do we need to receive it better? Do we need to send it more clearly, more efficiently? That's why it's important to understand the key messengers traveling across the axis and where are we getting the block? So if we're talking about motivation, for example, that's something we're sensing in our brain, but we might be able to change that sensation not by doing something in our brain, but by doing something in our gut, or by doing something in our microbiome, or doing something in our heart, or doing something in our immune system. Those are all part of this overall system. And unless we think of it as a system, we might miss the mark and just think, oh, motivation is a brain thing, and we just need more dopamine, and we're going to go do that, and we get into the whack-a-mole situation again. Okay, so that's the sort of background that I think everybody needs to understand, because as we get into the what do I do about it kind of recommendations as we go through here, it'll just inform you of why I'm making those recommendations. All right, so we're going to go through each one of those seven pillars, super seven. We're going to go through each one of those in turn, just to give you some background about what it's all about. Okay, let me look in here real quick. Okay, and everything's up there. I'm looking in the chat, and it looks like all the questions are answered right now. Okay, so mood. Primary pathway is serotonin. If I haven't said it already, I'm going to say it right now before I get into, this is serotonin. The next slide's dopamine. The next slide is going to be GLP-1s and glucose and things like that. They never work in isolation, right? So I've said a few times already, it's a system, right? And there's a sort of ebb and flow, and one thing works with another thing, and this signal's over there, and that signal's over there. Neurotransmitters work exactly the same way. So all of these signals, you're never going to have serotonin working only as serotonin. There'll be, is it in balance with your inflammatory markers? Is it in balance with cortisol? Is it in balance with blood sugar? Is it in balance with dopamine? So we talk about them in isolation to make a point, but just so you know, in the body, they're always this sort of like gamish of signals that are operating simultaneously. Okay, so mood, primary pathway serotonin. The gut connection here is that 90% of your serotonin, maybe 95% of your serotonin, is made in your gut. And we know that if we do a gut focused intervention that changes serotonin signaling, people feel better. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, go and find on YouTube or go and find on doctalbot.com. Go and find some of my serotonin specific seminars, and I'll go through all the biochemistry about that, how that works, how it doesn't work, how you can take advantage of it, that kind of stuff. But suffice to say that the gut is involved and the microbiome is involved. So much so that we can identify specific strains of bacteria, probiotic bacteria, what we call psychobiotics, that we can use to take advantage of this pathway. And the signs that we see when your serotonin is in balance, it's not just happiness, even though we sort of call this the happiness neurotransmitter. It's emotional stability, it's optimism, it's social connection. One of the other neurotransmitters or hormones that serotonin works with in conjunction with is oxytocin. So oxytocin sometimes is called the cuddle hormone. It's a very sort of pro-social hormone. It's the thing that's that's the hormone that helps, you know, newborn babies and their moms to bond with each other. So serotonin and oxytocin work with each other around social connections and feeling empathy for other people and things like that. So I would just want to ask this to people who are watching right now, or if you're watching on the replay, put it into the comments. How many people have noticed their mood change when their digestion is off? Right? This happens all the time, right? If you got food poisoning, you will exhibit something called sickness behavior, where you don't want to be around people. You cut all social connections, right? And that's sort of by design. If you're constipated, you feel irritable. You feel crummy. You feel off. It goes the other way too. If you have a stress response, or you're depressed, or you have a little panic attack or something like that, that can change your bowel habits, right? It can make you have to go to the bathroom right now, or it can back you up, or it can give you nausea, or it can make you sick to your stomach, right? That's the gut and the brain talking to each other on a millisecond by millisecond basis. We've all experienced this kind of thing before, right? Everybody. Let's talk about the next one, motivation. This is maybe my favorite pathway to try to modulate with people, right? Because so motivation and dopamine. Um, Dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters, a lot of people think of as well, motivation, energy, get up and go. And if your dopamine is low, you don't have that drive, you don't have that energy, if you will. Motivation and energy are different things, and you'll see when I get to the energy slide. But there's a gut brain connection here too. Microbes can influence your dopamine signaling. Again, specific strains of probiotic bacteria that we know can increase dopamine signaling and can help you feel more motivated. And like I said, it's different than energy. We can actually measure it in studies, and we can show, oh, this intervention helped with someone's fatigue, whereas this other intervention helped with we measure something called vigor, which is one of the ways that we measure overall motivation. And it's interesting to see those change in different directions, and it's interesting what people will say after an intervention. So one of the funniest experiences that I've had after an intervention like that, we're doing a group program, and there are probably 30 or 40 people in this group, and we were at the end of our 8-week intervention, and we were asking people, all right, what did you feel, right? And some people had their brain fog lifted, so now they were able to focus better, and other people were talking about their energy levels were better. And one woman got up and she's like, yeah, I got that, and I felt a little bit of that, but you know what? I don't know. I'm just getting a lot more vacuuming done. And everybody laughed, right? And she got a little embarrassed actually, right? Because she was just trying to explain like how she was feeling. And now here's all these people who are sort of snickering. And I stopped everybody and I said, no, what see what she's describing? She wasn't saying energy, she wasn't saying brain fog, she wasn't saying, happiness or, something like that. She just felt motivated to get up and do something. And for her, it just happened to be housework. But hooray, right? That's a different thing than what you're going to get from a Red Bull or a rock star or something like that. So anyway, inflammation is really important here. If you are, excuse me, if you're overinflamed, you might feel sluggish. You might feel like you don't want to get into action. You might feel a little bit lackadaisical because that inflammation is on its own. It's having a signal to sort of tell us to sit down, hide in the back of the cave, shut the blinds, because inflammation is telling our bodies we're either hurt or we're infected, and we need to tone things down so the body can repair or heal or rebuild, right? So inflammation has sort of that set of signals, and so that might be interpreted like your experience is. I don't feel like doing anything. I feel like just sitting as a bump on the log, right? I feel like being a couch potato, right? That's an inflammation lack of motivation signal. But inflammation will also block your dopamine, right? So this is I tell my students a lot. There's a difference between helping somebody feel better, which would be turning up a dopamine signal, versus helping them feel less bad, which would be turning down an inflammation signal. But imagine, because we understand the biochemistry, imagine you could do both of those simultaneously. You could turn down the inflammation so somebody feels less unmotivated, and you could turn up the dopamine so they feel more motivated, right? That was a lot of vocabulary there. So hopefully you followed me. But that's how it works. And the signs of you going the right direction is not just motivation, but you feel more drive, you feel more ambition, you feel more pursuit of goals, you feel more willpower, right? So those are some of the words that we use to describe what we're experiencing when our motivation is high and when our dopamine signal is high. And it's interesting that dopamine isn't a pleasure chemical. It's a pursuit chemical, right? It's something that gets us into action. And this is one of the reasons that I do the emoji that is this, like the face palm, where you're just like, oh geez. I do that to myself all the time when I see all these tech bros saying like, "Oh, I'm doing a dopamine fast, right? I'm going off of Instagram and I'm going off of Facebook and I'm going off of like my phone and things like that for 3 days, dopamine fast, so that I can come back and have better dopamine signaling." And I'm just like, oh my good Lord, it has nothing to do with that. They should take my 4-part dopamine metabolism mini course. It's not about pleasure. It's not about depriving yourself of it because you're getting too much of it. It's about getting the signals to be in balance with each other. Okay. Metabolism. This is a really interesting one. And, when I talk about metabolism, people very often think I'm going to be talking about weight loss, right? Weight loss is related to metabolism. But when I'm talking about metabolism, I'm talking about energy metabolism. I'm talking about these signaling pathways. So the GLP-1s that I talked about already. Insulin is the hormone that regulates your blood sugar control. It also regulates lots of other things. It regulates your muscle building. It regulates, are you going to gain muscle or lose muscle? But we're going to think of it in this context as a regulator of blood sugar, and a wide range of metabolites from your gut microbiome. And you can see a little graphic of that now. The A lot of times when I talk to my students about the microbiome, I talk about it in two ways. Who's there, which is the bacteria, like what bacteria are in your microbiome? How many lactobacillus? How many bifidobacterium? How many Akkermansia, et cetera, et cetera. The other part, and probably the more interesting and the more impactful part, is what are they doing? Is the piece of, all right, here's all these bacteria, but what metabolites are they giving us? Are they giving us things like, let me see if I have it here. Oh, I don't have it here yet, so I'm gonna go back. I might have it on a different slide. Um, your gut bacteria will make things like B vitamins. It will make things like vitamin K. Will make things like short chain fatty acids. I have short chain fatty acids here. Will help you regulate blood sugar. Um, will make neurotransmitters, right? That can have signaling effects across your axis. And so here you're seeing your bloodstream. Here you're seeing your vagus nerve, a very important part of your nervous system. Um, so so all of that signaling is related to your quote unquote metabolism, and that metabolism is sort of peripherally related to your ability to gain weight and lose weight. But I'm not going to go into that right now. But if this is off, if this metabolic signaling is off, you're more likely to have cravings. You're more likely to have problems with weight regulation. You're more likely to have problems with appetite control. You're more likely to have problems with what we call metabolic flexibility, which is your ability to shift between burning fat or burning carbohydrates or maintaining your muscle mass or eating your muscle mass and losing muscle, like that happens with a lot of people who are on Ozempic and that style medications. But when they're in balance, you feel better. And that's my main reason for focusing on these. But if I had a nickel for everybody, well, maybe not a nickel. If I had $20 for every person that came back to me and said, I did your regimen and I feel better, and you know what? I lost a few pounds and I wasn't even really trying, then I'd have a lot of $20. Let me say that. I have a big stack of $20. I probably wouldn't be a zillionaire, but it's a lot of people who experience that change in metabolism because they did some of the things we're going to talk about in a second to improve their mental fitness. They came in and worked with me, or took one of my courses or read one of my books to improve how they feel psychologically, and they got this nice side benefit of losing a couple of pounds. And that's because these metabolic signals are, helping them with metabolic flexibility, but it's also helping them with their mood, right? So there's that sort of link between the body mind piece of it. But we see it, we see it all the time. And this shouldn't go without saying. The brain is the most metabolically expensive organ in the body. So if you want your brain to work well, you need to make sure that your energy metabolism, which really starts in the gut, is in balance. Glucose, for example, blood sugar stability, is maybe the most important thing to make your brain smarter, more creative, better problem solving, not crashing in the afternoon, right? That's all about maintaining steady blood sugar balance, and that's related to insulin, and that's related to gut function, and that's related to cortisol, and that's related to, so you can see where the performance of your brain isn't just a brain thing. And that's one of the things I actually talk about in that Level Up book. The idea of nootropics, these brain boosters. People who talk about just working in the brain are like they've lost the plot, because it's not just a brain thing. It's a gut brain thing and a heart brain thing and an immune brain thing. And if you can harness all those other parts of the body, your brain's going to go to a whole nother level of performance. And that's what people who are interested in nootropics are interested in. They just don't know that they're focusing on just this little pinprick of potential benefits. And if they could think of the whole rest of the system, then they'd get better benefits. They'd get better effects. Okay, so we talked about motivation. Now let's talk about a little bit different energy. So when I think of energy, and I think of it from a biochemical perspective, we're thinking right down to the level of these little mitochondria guys. The best thing you can do for your mitochondria is to make sure they don't get damaged. And so you can see a nice healthy one here that is not damaged. It's producing lots and lots of ATP, which is like the energy currency of the cell. Once that mitochondria gets damaged, and the three things that damage mitochondria are oxidation, inflammation, and something called glycation, which is when your blood sugar level is fluctuating too much. And so if you can solve those three metabolic sort of triggers, your mitochondria suffer less damage. And when they're less damaged, they're more functional. So mitochondria are involved. Catecholamines in general are involved, which are dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. We used to call epinephrine adrenaline, and norepinephrine we used to call noradrenaline. So they're part of the fight or flight reaction. And then gut nutrient absorption. So this is where the idea of leaky gut comes in. People who have leaky gut are overinflamed, which damages their microbiome, which leads to fatigue. So it's their mitochondria are damaged, but they're damaged because of inflammation that was set off because of their leaky gut. And so if we can solve the gut problem, the leaky gut problem, if we can improve their gut integrity, then they're able to absorb nutrients better, more efficiently. They're able to produce B vitamins. You're able to lower inflammation, like I talked about before, and the signs that you'll see there: vitality, stamina, recovery, endurance. So these you'll see are different than motivation. It's almost like you need the motivation to get you up and get you going, and then the energy keeps you going. If you want to think about how they're different, you can think of them as like different time courses, if you will. Ideally, you want to have them both, but having one or the other is okay. Having them both, having neither of them is awful. If you have no energy and no motivation, you just feel awful all the time. But if you can get them in balance, then you're gonna be able to get up and get going and keep going. Okay, focus. Focus is one, and I save focus for sort of later in this discussion because when you don't have focus, right? The opposite of focus we're going to call brain fog, right? In our research studies, we call it confusion. So if confusion goes down, focus goes up. If focus goes down, confusion goes up. So this will sometimes be perceived as fatigue unless the individual is very sort of in tune with their bodies to understand the difference between physical fatigue and mental fatigue. So mental fatigue is confusion, lack of focus. Physical fatigue is lack of energy, sometimes lack of motivation, depending on how we're sort of categorizing it. But focus is more related. It's somewhat related to dopamine. I told you how dopamine is one of my favorites because you see it in focus, you see it in motivation, you see it in energy. Um, but the primary one is another neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is really cool because it is wonderfully manipulated. We can change your acetylcholine levels pretty easily using things like, well, choline itself, which is kind of like a B vitamin. But usually when we put it in supplements, we'll use stabilized forms. One very popular one is called citicoline. It's just a more stable form of choline that your body uses as a building block to make more acetylcholine, so you're sharper and you're more sort of engaged. But remember what I said before about glucose. If you want your brain to be doing its thing, you need to make sure it has its preferred energy source. And it's like the fuel that your brain wants to use is glucose. That's jet fuel for your brain. So you want to make sure that is, and you don't need a lot of it. You just need it in a consistent sort of drip, 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 drip. And that goes back to the metabolic signals that we just talked about a few minutes ago. So the gut-brain connection here is that neuroinflammation impairs executive function. Executive function is like problem solving. And blood sugar swings impair attention. So you need the blood sugar balanced. You need the inflammation in the brain. So inflammation that's in the body that might come from the gut. Remember, we talked about leaky gut just a minute ago. Leaky gut leads to systemic body inflammation. That body inflammation can become neuroinflammation, and neuroinflammation is going to block your serotonin, block your dopamine, block your acetylcholine. So all those signals might be there. They just can't get to where they need to in order to have those brain benefits. Okay, so again, a systems approach here. And let me get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to go in here and look at the chat. Signs if you're going in the right direction: concentration is better, executive function, problem solving is better, productivity is better, flow state, that ability to get in and do your best work, is much better when these neurotransmitters are in balance. One of the states that I really like to emphasize to people is this one that I call relaxed alertness. So flow state sometimes is described as relaxed alertness. Being in the zone is sometimes described as relaxed alertness, but it's this state where you are right on the cusp of like like doing your best work. People when they get into a flow state or they get into the zone or they get into relaxed alertness, it's almost like time slows down and you can just see everything in technicolor. It's the coolest state to get into if you want to do good athletic work, good psychological work, write the great American novel, solve a problem, come up with the eureka moment. That all happens in that state. And because we know sort of what the underlying biochemistry is, we can create that state and almost put ourselves in there on demand. It's a really really cool ability, which comes back to our ability to understand the biochemistry. Once we understand the biochemistry, we can manipulate it to take us in a in a direction of good high performance. So I'm gonna look up here and see. There's a couple things in the chat. Mary saying, I recently taught seventh graders about the importance of balanced lunches and eating their protein first to help them focus better toward the end of the school day. Yeah, and that's great to proactively eat for what's is going to happen later. What most people do is they go, no, I don't have time for that, right? I got to keep going. I'll grab a granola bar at my desk or something like that. And the inevitable crash comes. And when the crash comes, now you're sort of backpedaling on a sand dune, right? You're trying to get away from that crash, but now it's too late. Your blood sugar has crashed. Now your cortisol has risen. Now you've got the double whammy of problems that are leading you into a fight or flight reaction. If you had done what Mary did with the seventh graders and primed their systems a couple of hours before that, you would have prevented all of that downward spiral in their biochemistry, and therefore you would have prevented all that downward spiral in their performance, right? Because you harness the biochemistry in the right direction. Um, and I got a couple of thumbs up with it. Yeah, and once you see that happen, you just go like, why are we not doing this all the time? And it's because we're not reminded of the biochemistry of why we just had that meltdown, right? But we need to, as one of the benefits of having a coach too, right? If you have a certified mental wellness coach on your side, then you can make the right decisions in the right moments. Okay, so I've got immune system and stress resilience to talk about, and then we're gonna have a couple of like sort of summary charts. So yeah, immune system. My students know that the immune system is not just a shield. Most people out there in the world, even post-COVID, post-pandemic, still think that the immune system is just there to protect us from viruses. And it does a whole lot more than that. So the immune system, yes, is a shield. It protects us from viruses and bacteria and cancer cells and tumors and all that kind of stuff. But your immune system is also a vital part of this gut-brain axis, and it is a communication organ in addition to being a shield. And so if you can balance the signals that are coming from your microbiome, from the bacteria in your gut, going across your immune system, you can help yourself feel better, right? You can improve your motivation, you can improve your psychological vigor, which is partly motivation and partly energy at the same time when we measure it, mental energy and physical energy. And the reason for that is that 70% or more of your immune system is actually in your gut. And so if you're doing something in your gut, you are affecting 70% of your immune system. If you're doing something in your immune system, you're affecting your gut, right? They are, like I said, the microbiome and the gut are sort of like wrapped in with each other. The same thing goes with your microbiome and your immune system, or your immune system and your gut. They're like a three-legged stool, if you will. You can't affect one without affecting the other. And so instead of affecting only one, why don't we do interventions that are good for the microbiome and good for the gut lining, your gut integrity, and good for the immune system simultaneously, right? Because then what you get is you get this goodness, I'll just say it that way. Whatever we've done there doesn't just stay in any one of those and doesn't just stay in those three. it permeates out to the rest of the body. Okay. And what that looks like is better recovery, better resilience to, to illnesses and stress in the environment, fewer illnesses, healthier aging. We just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the link between keeping your immune system from aging. When your immune system ages, it's called something immunosenescence. If you can keep your microbiome young, that can keep the whole organism young. If you can keep your immune system young, that can keep the whole organism young. And it just it just speaks to the fact that, and I'll say this: I would bet that people who have leaky gut age faster than people who have good gut integrity. There's no clinical trials that show that. One of the reasons this is really difficult for us to measure leaky gut. It can be done, and there are clinical trials that show here are people with excessive gut permeability. That's the way we talk about leaky gut in clinical trials. And here, we do this intervention like having them eat a high polyphenol diet or a high fiber diet, and their gut gets less leaky, so it has better barrier function. And those people have, all kinds of good changes in their metabolism. Their cortisols go down, their inflammation goes down, all the parameters go in the right direction. There's just not the long-term studies that show that they're living longer, right? But those three things, your gut lining, your immune system, your microbiome, those are all linked to healthy aging or unhealthy aging, for like frailty, right? So really, really important. So knowing that, I don't think there's a lot of people who are watching right now who are going to go, yeah, I think I'm going to focus on my immune system so that I age better, right? You'll probably think very short term, right? That's long-term thinking. Most people don't like long-term thinking. They want benefits right now. If you focus on your immune system to help you feel better, right? Improve your vigor, improve your motivation, that's something that will happen in a couple of days, a couple of weeks at least, right? So you'll feel better quickly. And so go do that, right? Get that psychological benefit now and keep doing it because it's going to protect you from illnesses, but it's also going to help you hopefully age better into the future. Okay, the immune system constantly talks to the brain, and the brain's talking to the immune system, through that gut-brain axis thing that I talked about before. And then this last one, before we get into some of the kind of what to do, is stress resilience. All right, so stress resilience, as I said at the very beginning, is your ability to handle stress. That is your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So all the way from the brain to your adrenal glands to the production of those stress hormones that give you the fight or flight reaction. Cortisol is the stress hormone that most people have heard of before. But then the counter-regulatory neurotransmitter is GABA. GABA helps us relax in the face of stress. So you could have an excessive production of cortisol and or a suboptimal production of GABA. If you have either one of those, you're going to be more tense and more irritable and less able to relax and less able to wind down. And so what's the solution? Is it to lower your cortisol exposure or raise your GABA exposure? Or both, right? Both of them have sort of a fluctuating circadian rhythm. So you don't want less cortisol all the time, and you don't want more GABA all the time. You want the right amount in the right timing. So there's a little bit of a nuance of exposure, but there's also the timing of that exposure. Okay. Psychobiotics play here with the gut-brain connection. So these are the probiotics that have a psychological effect to influence the stress response. Chronic stress alters microbiome composition. So what your microbiome is doing can influence your stress response, and what your stress response is doing can influence your microbiome. And so there are a handful of decent studies now that show the more stressed out you are, the more bad bacteria you grow in your microbiome. So stressed out people become more dysbiotic. And, and that sets off that vicious cycle of now you have more bad bacteria. Now you have more inflammatory compounds. Now those inflammatory compounds can block your neurotransmitters. Now you can't relax. Now you're more stressed, vicious cycle. And so we can intervene at either side. We can intervene at the level of the brain to calm the stress signals so you don't grow those bad bacteria. We can intervene at the level of the gut so that you produce less of the bad stuff and more of the good stuff so that your brain calms down. So, either top down or bottom up, we can intervene at either of those, or systems approach, we can intervene at both of them. And you're going in the right direction because you really feel this. You feel more calm under pressure. You're able to recover faster from whatever that stress is, better sleep quality, better emotional flexibility. And this leads into that, what was in the middle of that circle, which I have on the next slide, adaptive capacity. It's not just your ability to handle the stress, like withstand the stress. It's your ability to recover from the stress and come back stronger. Okay. So here's that adaptive capacity slide, just looking at it a little bit differently, emphasizing more with these little guys on the outside, the fact that each of these influences the next one. So adaptive capacity in the middle, um, the seven aspects of mental fitness around the outside, and then the reminders that they all sort of balance with each other. So just to give you some more examples, if your energy is low, it's very likely that your ability to handle stress is going to be lower. If your mental focus is low, you might perceive that as a lack of motivation. So you guys get the idea that if one of these breaks, so to speak, or one of these is under pressure, it's likely to lead to more and more pressure around the outside. But the good news is that once you strengthen one of them, the next one strengthens, the next one strengthens, the next one strengthens. Okay, so that's the nature of this biochemistry, right? We always love to talk about the biochemistry in this sort of like isolated system so that we can control everything, and we can say, like I was saying before, like serotonin is for happiness and dopamine is for motivation and etc. But in the real world and in the real body, it doesn't really work that way, right? Everything is sort of feeding back and bouncing around with each other. Okay. And that's why it's so detrimental when we find ourselves in these downward or vicious cycles, right? Where and you can see the example I have here. Poor diet leads to gut disruption, leads to inflammation, leads to stress reactivity, poor sleep, brain fog, low motivation, worse choices, further decline. And lots of people are here and they don't know where to start, right? And using what I started out with at the very beginning, whack-a-mole, whatever one of these is the most painful of what they're experiencing, that's the one that they focus on. And they go, oh, it must be inflammation. Let me eat an anti-inflammatory diet for a couple of days. And sure, that might give you some benefits, but it's not enough always to short circuit this vicious cycle. But what if you came at it from a systems approach and said, we're going to do a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here? That's why this understanding of biochemistry is so important, because then you can come over here to the right-hand side and you can put them into a positive cycle. You can put them into a positive spiral, a virtuous cycle where you get a little bit better with your gut health. It gets a little bit better with your inflammation and better neurotransmitter balance, better mood, more motivation, better habits, better metabolism, better energy, greater resilience, right? And we see this kind of thing all the time. I see it in my students. I see it in my clients. I see it in their clients. I see it in the research studies that we do. Small wins create big change. The most important thing here is consistency, right? That you figure out which is the right one to start with, right? You'll see on the next slide, or maybe two slides, you don't have to start with all of them, right? Even though it is a systems approach and you want it like a multifactorial problem, you want a multifactorial solution, I don't want people to think that they have to completely change their whole lifestyle in, carte blanche, like across the board, because that scares people away. If we strategically work with our clients to figure out which is the biggest problem for them, I'm going to talk about how to help them do that. You can make some real changes, and like I said, we get to see this all the time. People getting better and better and better, and then the longer you get into that upward spiral, the the stronger it is, the stronger it is, the stronger it is. The longer you stay in this downward spiral, the more you stay in the spiral, the harder it is to get out. The more you build this spiral, the more momentum you create. And you see people who are getting better and better and better and better. And I try to say this to people too. It's like, it's not like you get better into infinity. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to get, you're not going to, become a superhero at some point. You might feel like you're a superhero compared to where you were before, but you'll reach your new state of adaptive capacity, and it will be a heck of a lot better place than where you were before. Okay. Of course, depending on where you started. So here's what the mental fitness pyramid looks like. I have in this book, I've got a mental fitness diet pyramid, which shows you what foods to eat in order to have a food mood connection kind of a thing. But it's all about these daily behaviors. I'm not going to go through all of these. I've written about them in the book. I've written about them extensively on my blog, so you can go and do that. There's lots of content about it in the mental fitness community. But it's food, movement, sleep, stress management, relationships, nature, exposing yourself to the outdoors, and then recovery, making sure you have enough downtime physically and mentally to help yourself recover. But it's these daily behaviors that lead to strengthening each of these super seven that we just saw on the last slide. And that's what leads to ultimate performance. It's not how a lot of people think. A lot of people start up here and say, how can I improve my performance? It really starts, you have to start building it from the bottom. And it's these small steps consistently. It's kind of like a lot of times we say with the athletes, we'll say, trust the process, right? So if the goal is the world championships, or the goal is, standing on the top step of the podium wherever, you really have to like divorce yourself from thinking about that event. You have to just, like, another way of saying it is you have to put in the reps. And that idea of trust the process is I show up, I do my practice, I make sure I recover. I make sure I eat right. I make sure I supplement. I make sure I do my mind work. I make sure that, like, you're doing all these little things. And as you do all those little things, then you get a little bit better. And you go on that upward spiral just a little bit, and you come back and you do the little things, and you go up a little bit, and you do the little things, and you go up a little bit. And that's the real value of a coach, is to keep the athlete on track and listen to them and see how they're feeling. And, when they start freaking out, you calm them down. When they start, getting too boastful, you calm them down. You keep them on track. That's the value of a coach, is to keep you consistent and do little course corrections if necessary. If there's, too much stress or not enough recovery, for example, you sort of help the athlete or help the client navigate that situation a little bit. Probably the most important first step, if we find ourselves or we find our clients in that downward spiral, how can we stop the downward spiral and then start the upward spiral? It's to identify what I call their primary limiter. That it's to work with them to try to figure out what is the one thing that is most out of balance. It might be lots of things, right? Remember, multifactorial problem. You might have some clients that have 10 things out of balance, and you have to work with them and listen to them and try to figure out what is the one thing, or maybe two things, that we can focus on now. Where's the first place we can start? And you might do that for a week, you might do it for a month, you might do it for 6 months until you get that into balance. And then you can either stay there and add another one, or that one's now in balance and you can move to another one. That would be the secondary limiter. But finding where that primary limiter is, for some people it might be fiber. For somebody else it might be cortisol exposure. For somebody else it might be where sleep quality is a big one for a lot of people. Lots of my clients, that's the first one that we work on, is sleep quality. Getting better sleep quality fixes a lot of the things that they notice during the day, like energy and motivation and mental focus and things like that, are sometimes not really that problem. It's a sleep quality problem. So you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. Most people don't need to fix everything. We need to identify the 1 to 2 factors that are creating the biggest drag on their adaptive capacity. And you get the same symptoms from a lot of different root causes, which is what I just explained there with with sleep and motivation and focus sometimes are not problems with sleep and motivation and focus. It's problems with their sleep quality the night before. So here's some examples of that. The brain fog your client is experiencing, or you might be experiencing, could be a sleep issue. So don't start looking at nootropics and adaptogens and things like that. Look at what we can do for your sleep. Your low mood might not be a serotonin dopamine issue. It might be inflammation. Your low motivation could be dopamine signaling instead of you just being a weak will-powered person is what some people will sort of self-talk themselves into. Fatigue could be blood sugar. Stress reactivity could be not just cortisol level, but cortisol rhythm, where you don't have the right level of cortisol at the right time. Poor resilience could be a microbiome problem, right? So you guys get the idea. The key is finding the primary limiter and then focusing on that consistently until you see some progress, and then you can decide what to do from there. Okay, so how do I do this? I want to give you an example of how I do it with my clients. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Okay, so I have this concept I call the adaptive capacity ladder. Not everybody needs the same level of intervention. And so you'll find that with your own clients, right? You'll find some people who need you to hold their hand all the way along. You'll have some people who just need a little bit of, push in the right direction. I get a lot of people these days who or I guess I should restate that. There are a lot of people these days who will just go online and they'll do a search, right? And they'll ask, Google, or they'll ask Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT or something like that. Um, I'm stressed out all the time. I don't have any motivation. I have brain fog. What would you recommend? And they'll get a lot of information, right? There's lots of information out there. It's not an information problem, right? I find that a lot of people know a lot of the things that they should do, right? People know they're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. They know they're supposed to hydrate. They know they're supposed to move their bodies. They know they're supposed to, eat more fruits and vegetables, like all that kind of stuff. People know that. It's being held accountable and course correcting when you need to. That's the advantage of a coach. So I have a level one intervention that I have with people. This is going to launch. What is today? Today's the 18th. This is going to launch on the 23rd, June 23rd. It's an AI app that I've spent the last couple of months building. It's called the Adaptive Capacity Coach. It's a personalized me in somebody's pocket. I've uploaded all my books, all my videos. We've been training it for, like I said, a couple of months, tweaking it, writing the logic and all that kind of stuff. So AI powered recommendations, videos, articles, exercises, daily mental fitness practices. So somebody can download the app and they can, put in, they want to improve their sleep, they want to reduce their stress, they want to improve their energy levels, whatever, any of these seven, and the app learns the individual and then goes into my library, 30 years of content, and picks out what's going to be the best for them. It helps them identify their primary limiter, and it helps them navigate from there. And as they go day by day by day, it'll actually, beep at you and say, like, here you go. It's time to put in your 30 plant challenge, or, whatever the thing is for the day. And it learns them and it customizes all along the way. So like that is for the people who want to be very self-directed, right? They just like, tell me what the plan is and I'll take it from here, right? It's very sort of like low touch. I don't do anything with it. Like I've spent the time building it, and people can come and access it, but I don't have any like ongoing interaction with that people, because they just want to know what to do. And there, I built it into the plan. There's another level of interaction, which is the mental fitness community. This is something we launched a couple of months ago. We've had various iterations of it over the last couple of years. And this one I think is the best one yet, where you are able to learn alongside others. We have monthly live calls, community support. There's live Q&A sessions. There's a lot of content that gets posted up in there that other students will comment on. So it's like wisdom of the crowd kind of thing, right? And this is best for people who want interaction and accountability and encouragement and guidance and support, and be able to get in there and be able to interact with other people. Some people like that kind of thing. Some people don't. Like, the first person might, take the plan and get to a point where they're like, okay, now I need more people like me. I need to find my tribe, so to speak, so I can go to the next level. This is the next level. The next level after that, level three, is to become a certified mental wellness coach. Whether you want to build a business around coaching people or not, we have a lot of people who have gone through this training because they just wanted to go deeper with the advanced education, right? It is a deep dive into gut brain science, heart brain science, immune brain science, mindfulness, movement, gratitude, anti-aging, all the different things, all within a mental fitness coaching framework, right? So it's 16 hours, which is a commitment. It's 11 modules. You have to pass a little quiz in between each module. So it's a pretty intensive sort of a thing. You get a professional certification at the end of it. This is for people who want mastery, right? They want to either build a business as a mental fitness coach, or they just really want to learn enough for themselves so they can be the coach and the client at the same time. Because it's a professional certification, you get continuing education units for it. You're able to open a supplement dispensary with a number of different, health practitioner level supplement companies. And so, that's a different level, that isn't going to appeal to everybody, but it appeals to enough. And then the last level are the people who want the hand holding to work directly with me. I've got a handful of people that I work with. Um, it's very high touch. It's also not cheap, but it's a personalized strategy, right? We get right down to the biochemistry of the individual. Sometimes we're doing saliva testing, sometimes we're doing urine testing, sometimes we're doing microbiome testing, sometimes we're recommending specialized supplement regimens, but this is performance optimization. And when I say performance, it's not just for athletes. There are athletes that I work with, but it's for anybody who wants to have the highest level of performance for themselves. So this is, entrepreneurs, it's executives, it's people who just want to optimize every aspect of how they feel and how they perform, and they want to do it without having to learn all the ropes themselves. So, I would encourage you, if you're watching and you're a coach, to have these different tiers of interaction, because, like I said, some people want to be with you step by step by step, and you want to have a check-in every week, and you want to be connected on emails and texts and things like that. And other people just want to get the information and get different levels of personalized approach. But the path for everybody follows the same sort of a thing. The path to mental fitness is identify that primary limiter, improve your adaptive capacity, because that is the central regulator. If you can not just handle stress better, but bounce back from it and come back stronger, it's going to strengthen each of these super seven. These pillars, when this adaptive capacity foundation is strong, these all rise together. And they might rise at different trajectories. So, depending on the person, one person might see their focus come back before their energy comes back, or somebody else might see an improvement in their mood before they see an improvement in their metabolism, right? So there is a little bit of they have different um, time courses, if you will, but they all start going in the right direction, and that's really powerful to see. And ultimately, what you're going for is this improvement in performance, better energy, clearer thinking, stronger resilience, peak performance in work, relationships, health, and life. And that's really what we're looking for. Everybody's definition of performance is a little bit different, and I love that. I love that performance in air quotes is becoming a lot more than just physical performance or athletic performance. And I love that. That's what I talk about when we talk about this concept of level up. So with that, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you very much. I just took a look in the chat. There's no other questions in there. I'm going to click one more time if I can find my cursor and give you. There we go. all the places to find me. This video is going to be up on YouTube probably by this time tomorrow. So share it around. Use it as a way to get other people interested in what you do, or the supplements that you recommend, or the programs that you endorse, that kind of stuff. But you can connect with me, and through all these channels. And I really appreciate you joining me tonight. I'm going to stop the share, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.